Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. My name's Don Arleth, and you're watching World News, coming to you live from Warsaw. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that his envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, might travel to Moscow for talks on Wednesday or Thursday. Speaking to reporters, Trump also said that he's prepared to impose additional sanctions on Russia if it does not reach a ceasefire with Ukraine by August 8th. Russia reportedly requested the meeting ahead of the Friday deadline for a ceasefire.
Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions, so we'll see what happens. But Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him. They've asked that he meet, so we'll see what happens.
U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that he would impose sanctions if Moscow does not agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine by Friday. Though 500% tariffs in the form of secondary sanctions are unlikely, but added pressure might cause a shift between Russia and its partners, says Elena Davlikanova, a democracy fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis.
We honestly do not believe that U.S. will impose 500% tariffs on as secondary sanctions on those countries that continue trading with Russia. However, any more serious impact on those countries might shift these relationships between India, China, and Russia. Well, let's wait and see, because Witkoff had to come to Moscow tonight. Unfortunately, he didn't arrive, and the whole negotiations between U.S. and Russia will probably take place, in a wider format between U.S., China, India, Russia, and Ukraine.
President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has announced that Russia has agreed to another exchange of 1,200 prisoners of war. According to the Ukrainian leader, both countries are now working on lists of POWs to be swapped.
An exchange of 1,200 of our people who are currently in captivity is being prepared. We must free everyone, all our military personnel, all our civilians, no matter how difficult it may be. Chief of the Presidential Office, Andrei Yermak, also reported on communication with our partners, in particular with the Americans. The United States is ready to help. I want to thank them for that. Pressure on Russia can really work. It can work in such a way that Moscow feels the consequences of prolonging the war.
Russia launched yet another attack on Ukraine overnight, targeting the Odessa region. The strike sparked multiple fires, which have already been contained by firefighters. The blazes destroyed a house and dozens of stands at a market in the city of Odessa, but there were no reports of injuries. The overnight attack on Odessa follows a strike on Zaporizhzhia on Sunday, which left at least 3 people killed and came as Moscow's forces continue to slow their advance westward along the 1,000-kilometer front line with Ukraine. According to a Ukrainian military spokesman, Kyiv's troops are holding on to their positions despite Russian attempts to take control. Poland has been, is, and will be on the side of Israel, but will never side with politicians who lead to the deaths of mothers and children, said Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. His comments come after U.S. Ambassador nominee to Poland, Tom Rose, claimed that Israel, despite mass civilian casualties in Gaza, is abiding by international law. The head of the Polish government said that that Warsaw's position should be clear for any nation that went through the horrors of World War II. Tusk's social media post comes in the wake of Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski condemning Israel's policies regarding the Gaza Strip, including blocking aid transports. According to Sikorski, Israel, even in its self-defense, must obey international law. As stated by the Polish official, the starving children in Gaza don't even know what Hamas is, let alone support it. In response, Tom Rose, who's been tapped to be the future U.S. ambassador to Poland, said that, quote, Israel has provided more humanitarian aid to its mortal enemy than any combatant in the history of warfare, not because it's required to, but because it's a Jewish state committed to basic moral standards. Poland is set to have more tanks by 2030 than the UK, Germany, France, and Italy combined. This comes after Warsaw signed another deal with South Korean defense company Hyundai Rotem to procure additional K2 tanks.
On Friday, Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz signed an agreement worth over $6 billion with Hyundai Rotem for 180 K2 battle tanks. This marks the country's second deal with the company, after the first was struck in 2022, also for 180 K2 tanks. This will take Poland's tank numbers to 1,100 vehicles by 2030, giving the country a bigger armored force than the total of the UK, Germany, France, and Italy, who are expected to field some 950 tanks by 2030.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog arrived in Vilnius on Monday for talks with his Lithuanian counterpart, Gitanas Nausėda. Bilateral cooperation between Lithuania and Israel, support for Ukraine, and the situation in the Middle East were at the top of the agenda during the talks between the two leaders. Later in the day, both presidents will also participate in the Lithuania-Israel Business Forum. During his official visit, President Herzog is also set to visit the town of Szczedówa, a site of former Jewish ghetto during World War II. Russia has launched a disinformation campaign to interfere in the September parliamentary elections in Moldova. The target is the country's pro-European diaspora, and the goal is to stop voters from casting their ballot in support of Moldova's path to join the European Union.
A sharp uptick in disinformation has been observed by officials, Moldova's national security advisor Stanislav Secrieru said, as reported by Politico. Swaying the diaspora would be significant, as there is 250,000 votes at stake, and the Party of Action and Solidarity, led by President Maia Sandu, is trying to keep a majority in the Parliamentary Assembly. Tactics used by Russian disinformation include fake online outlets publishing sham reports that demobilize voters or make them support a fake pro-European party. The parliamentary elections set for September 28th might determine whether Moldova continues on its European Union path or falls under Russian influence.
Russia and China are carrying out artillery and anti-submarine drills in the Sea of Japan as part of scheduled joint exercises. The initiative comes as the two countries seek to strengthen relations and counterbalance what they call a U.S.-led global order. The drills by the Russian and Chinese navies are taking place 2 days after U.S. President Donald Trump said he had ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be deployed to, quote, appropriate regions in response to what he called foolish and inflammatory nuclear threats from former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. Russian authorities, however, said the drills were planned well before Trump's remarks. The drills include artillery fire exercises, anti-submarine warfare training, air defense operations, as well as joint search and rescue missions. The exercises are scheduled to conclude on Tuesday. South Korea has been removing loudspeakers blaring anti-North Korean broadcasts installed along its border, according to the country's defense ministry. The move comes as President Lee Jae-myung's new government seeks to ease tensions with Pyongyang.
Our military began removing loudspeakers aimed at North Korea today. It is a practical measure to help ease tensions between the South and the North without affecting the military's readiness posture. There were no prior discussions with North Korea.
William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet has been performed thousands of times, but this Estonian theater found a way to make their production stand out. Instead of regular actors, the venue uses vehicles, with a red pickup truck taking on the role of Juliet, while a rally truck portrays Romeo. The performances take place in a limestone quarry in Romeo, Estonia. The new version of the classic play comprises of over a dozen heavy vehicles, including city buses, fire engines, semi, and cement trucks. The production, which continues until Sunday, is without dialogue. However, it is accompanied by fireworks and music, including the track Love Fool by the Swedish group The Cardigans. According to the co-director of the theater, Pavel Peak, the production is an experiment in what Shakespeare means in the present day and an exploration of whether there are new ways to present his works. Poland was defeated 3-1 by France in the final of the FIVB Volleyball Boys Under-19 World Championship on Sunday, earning them a silver medal. Coached by Jacek Nawrocki, Poland reached the final in strong form, securing narrow 3-2 victories over Pakistan and South Korea, followed by a straight sets win against Spain in the semifinals. However, France demonstrated superior performance in the final, winning 3-1 and claiming their second consecutive world title. And that'll do it for this edition of World News. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.